Okay, hi guys. Cord Ranowski, Yankee T News, coming to you again. And it is Monday morning, 8:32 in the morning. A little early, a little off the schedule here, but part of this is because Eric is still very much in demand, helping Betsy in her campaign. And certainly in the coming weeks, it's going to get tighter and tighter because, she's a fighter and she's not going to give up. She's seeing this all the way through. So Eric is playing a crucial role for her. Yeah, so I'm going to have to talk about the news a little bit here. So I just want to start by saying that I'm going to throw it out, probably wrong, but Saturday night, Tehran, there were a series of strikes. And certainly gave me the impression that those strikes actually did serious damage to the RGC leadership. There was some suggestion, but we haven't seen any confirmation yet. So it's called stay tuned on that. When you look at the news items, it still looks the same. The negotiations, the back and forth, the threats, the bluster, you name it. So who knows as far as that's concerned. But there are other items that are noteworthy. I put up a link. It'll be later. You'll have to go look at it later. But this one link explains the structure of the Iranian government, or the Islamic State, if you will. And you really get the impression that this is like a cancer that has been planted inside the Iranian culture. And I say this in spite of the fact that they are Iranian, in spite of the fact that the majority are Persian and even large majority are Shiite. In spite of all that, they are there's this weird misfit that you sense when you look at how they're set up. So it really is a religious government, and it is their religious values. They're actually organizationally structured, institutionally structured, such that their religious values are almost like this hidden nugget within the government. And then you have the mullahs around that. Then you have the IRGC as another ring around that. And then the other groups that span out. And so in the sense that we removed some number of the leadership from the mullahs, and now we see the IRGC taking over, it's collapsing in. The other thing that's interesting to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the part that's a real shocker, or if you don't think about it very closely, but as a succession of IRGC members are being killed off, the pictures we're getting of people who are younger and younger. So, okay. So it would appear that we're knocking off those who have more experience. And now you have the younger ones in control, and well, they don't have that much experience. So how long is this going to hold? They're going to hold on. But all of this, by the way, leads to my copy I have, the op-ed. Basically, at its heart, the message is Iran is resilient. America is going to have to be more resilient. And I say this because a lot of time has been spent by President Trump and others beating their chests and talking about how we've really put it to them with this massive number of strikes that we've hit them with. Okay, well, guess what? They knew this was coming, right? So they're adapting. As hard as it may seem to believe, they're under the worst of circumstances, they're adapting. They're still able to fight back. And one of the unanswered questions is just what kind of a communication system do they have, even after we've hit them with 13,000 strikes, and now we're getting ready to go back and finish off some of the strikes that didn't go as well as we would have liked. Yeah, so my argument is they're set up a little bit better than we think. That continues to be my argument, and I'm waiting to be persuaded otherwise. So anyway, so I did put in the link about the claim of was that Tausi TV? Anyway, I highly recommend Tausi TV if you want to check them out. Now, the other line of thinking here that has been put forth by some folks of Israel is that we're being blindsided by Iraq. We forget that Iraq is a largely Shiite country, and because of that, they feel a strong affinity with their, quote, Iranian brothers and sisters. And as a result, we're going to see, and we've seen Iranian, how should I say this? Iraqi supporters of the IRGC come over the border to rally and get behind the existing IRGC leadership in Iran. All right. Well, there have been attacks on American facilities. We're supposedly still in Iraq. So there have been attacks on those American facilities by guess who? So we're probably not giving Iraq enough due consideration, at least from where we're sitting. Maybe the American military is, but it hasn't been discussed very much. Now, another interesting point is that one of the things that's happened is that there are Iranian money changers in Kuwait, I believe, in the UAE, in Bahrain, and they're being the authorities there are going after these Iranian money changers. So this is just one more example of starting to bring, having more of a negative impact on the Iranian economy. Now, another point, and this is the one that I should think maybe give us more pause, but it's also, I'm going to mention it. Okay, now comes the announcement that it's going to be the 10th Mountain Division of the Army that's heading to Iran. The 10th Mountain Division? Okay, well, we know that much of Iran is mountainous. Why haven't we heard this before? I don't know, but now they've decided they're going to let us know that that's in the works. And I just want to mention also, we're learning once again the hard way that a lot of these people can't be trusted. So President Trump had mentioned that starting in January, he was supplying arms to the Kurds, and they were supposed to pass those weapons on to other resistance fighters in Iran, and they didn't do it. They kept the arms for themselves. Well, it just teaches us that maybe we can't trust the Iranians as much as we think we can. Anyway, moving on, Ukraine. So the big thing about Ukraine, or the two big things. One was the announcement that for March, it was something like 35,000 Russian troops have been killed, taken off the field of battle. And this is a number that is matching the replacement rate that the Russians are filling the ranks with. So this gives the impression that the Russians are beginning to just tread water. And, even as we speak, Ukraine is looking at ways to ramp up their drone production, as is Russia. It doesn't look good. I don't think it looks good for Russia, frankly. In any event, so now we have an announcement that Zelensky went on a road trip. He's paid a visit to Erdogan in Turkey to discuss bilateral agreements, and he paid a visit to Jelani in Syria. Okay, so that's a new one as well. So you add to that the trips that he'd already made to Saudi Arabia, to I think UAE, right? So he's been doing the rounds in the Mideast, building relationships with those people on the strength of the technology they developed in fighting the Russians. It's called Stay Tuned. All right. Meantime, I want to move on to the news, and we are running out of time. So Marco Rubio tweets that Ilhan Omar ushered Somali fraudster refugees into the U.S. for a nice fee. Okay. We know that she has somehow acquired substantial wealth in her short time in office, and it may turn out that this is one of them. So you've had the Secretary of State making this accusation. It's an accusation that is not being made lightly. Just might want to keep that in mind. All right. Well, again, there's a lot of confusion over the impact of artificial intelligence on the job market. But there is a suggestion, because the best we can do is estimate, that 15,000 jobs went to AI in March. 15,000. So which 15,000, we don't know. But it amounts to 25% of the layoffs that happened in March. 25,000 going to AI. Now, what am I going to say? It just, yeah. Now, this is funny. So somebody pulled up a historical reference from a paper, a news article written in the New York Times in 1903 before the Wright brothers, in which the New York Times said that human flight was 10 million years away. I don't know, that New York Times sign sounds a little anti-innovation, not very forward-looking when it comes to technology. All right. Meantime, I want to move on to the other thing. Now, I have been complaining, about Pam Bondi for the longest time. And finally, she is out. Now, I want to acknowledge that she has done a number of good things where her job was to, quote, protect President Trump. She did a good job. Where she would go after these activist judges, I think she did a pretty good job. But that's about, there's a couple other areas, but after that, and then I guess with ICE and illegal immigrants, but the things that count, election fraud, Tina Peters, the J6ers, no, she hasn't done a good job. So moving on. So now Blanche is coming in, and Todd Blanche, and a lot of people think he'll do a good job. The problem is the guy who's always in that key spot in the Department of Justice is going to be getting pressure from all directions, and we will see how it's handled. So my message, of course, to Acting Director Todd Blanche for the Department of Justice is, that's right, we are waiting for the perp walks. Where are the perp walks? And all those grand juries, they're supposedly working on Brennan and Comer, I think Clapper too. We haven't heard anything, nothing. So all this stuff, once again, gives all appearance of being slow walked. And what's it for us? Nothing. And then Tina Peters, poor Tina. Okay. Again, my message to Governor Polis, maybe you haven't had the kind of direct control you'd like to have, but you are the governor. So you should know how to handle this. And you haven't. Okay. And you know that I've been very critical of you. Others have been critical of you. So with this resentencing, I have a suggestion. The resentencing needs to be set to 0 or time served, and then let her out. She's an old woman. How dare you? Yeah, how dare you? So those are some of the main items. Clearly, what happens Tuesday is going to be big, unless there's talk of other proposals for a 45-day ceasefire and other things. Who knows what's going to happen? But I have the feeling that this is going to go down. It's the scale of what's being suggested by President Trump is considerable. But the point still remains the same. The people, the planners in Iran saw this coming a long time ago. So we're going to drop a lot of bombs, and maybe we will have disabled the Iranian government substantially more, but nope, there's still going to be a bunch of them hanging on. And I'll hold out for the big one. The big one I want to suggest to you is that at some point, this will be their Hail Mary, their Hail Allah, to fire dirty bombs. Okay? I think despite everything they say, I think that uranium was taken. It's spread out, and some of it has been put on the warheads for some ballistic missiles. That's what I believe. So we'll see if I'm wrong. I've been wrong before, and I always will say I'm wrong when I'm wrong. But again, there's too much still going on for me to think that they're done. So on that happy note, guys, I am out of here, and I'll be back later. Bye.